Good morning. We are your Blue Line group with your Blue Line Wife's Roll Call podcast. I'm Shannon Gilbert with Emerge Real Estate.
I'm Jamie Wright with Wright Dalvo Insurance.
I'm Amy Lewis with Priority Mortgage.
And we are coming to you live from LEPD Firearm and Range on Bethel Road. Inside joke from a couple weeks ago. Right here in Columbus, Ohio.
And for those of you that don't know who we are yet, we are a dedicated team of law enforcement families specializing in real estate, financial, and insurance services, fervent about creating ongoing professional relationships and giving back to our first responder families.
Yes, that's
Good morning.
right. Good morning, ladies.
So we have a really good show today, and I think people are
Yes.
going to find a lot of value out of this. Hopefully we can give them some great tips.
We're going to have a guest in
Yes.
like 10 minutes.
We're going to have a special guest,
Yes.
so make sure you stay tuned because you're really going to learn a lot on today's show, and it's a very important
Yes.
topic. It's a sad topic, but it's a good topic.
Yes.
It can be sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Well,
can be really good.
it can have really devastating effects.
Oh, we're keeping them in suspense. What's that? It's gun safety, people. They're like, what are y'all going to talk about?
So today we're going to talk about gun control,
Yeah.
gun safety. We're not getting into the political part about, but we're just hopefully going to be able to provide you with a lot of great tips to help keep you and your loved ones safe and the population in general. I mean, because I think this is a topic that can affect
Yes,
everybody.
absolutely.
Well, and
Absolutely.
I see, too, on so many of the wives' pages, too, like, when do we talk to our kids about guns? How do we protect them? You know, what kind of things do you guys do in your house, too? So we thought this was pretty relevant just because I have little ones at home, too. So how do you handle that?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yes.
hopefully we're going to cover that and get you some really good stuff. But I did find this one really interesting, I guess, a wallpaper, just a flyer, something that it's the 4 rules of firearm safety. And I found this repeatedly. So I thought it was just something really important that I wanted to share. Always treat every firearm as though it is loaded. And I think that's common sense. Never let the muzzle cover anything you're not willing to destroy or lose. Basically, don't point it at anybody or anything valuable or, your couch. Nothing. Keep your finger off the trigger until your sights are in target. That's a
big
really, really big one because I think when people pick them up, they just automatically, their finger just goes right there. And the last one, be sure of what your target is and what is beyond it. So this is really relevant because I remember many, many years ago, my husband was deer hunting and he was with a drive of some people and he didn't know everybody. And there he was experienced and he was on the part that was supposed to be shooting at the targets. Well, then, and then the other part drives. People started shooting at him. He was like, that's not how this is supposed to be. They had their whole plan. And people started shooting at him. So he just laid flat down on the ground.
Oh,
as much
my
as could.
gosh.
Yeah, scared him. He's like, what is going on? That's not how our drive is supposed to work. Anybody that's a hunter out there, you know how you do it very strategically. You've got one group of guys who are driving and then another group of guys who are, it's their turn to do the hunting.
Yeah.
And somebody's
So I
wires
don't
got
hunt,
crossed or weren't
so
safe.
I'm assuming driving is like pushing the deer
Yes.
towards the shooter.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're kind of in a line. I mean, I don't know how far apart they are. I'm not a hunter. But anyway, that's kind of where they start walking through the woods and it stirs up the
Gotcha.
wildlife, whatever they're looking for,
Oh.
and makes them run towards
Yeah.
those who are up
Shooting.
above,
Yeah.
maybe in their tree stands or whatever.
Right.
Somebody wasn't following the route. They
Interesting.
saw something that they wanted, and even though they're on the wrong side, they started shooting. And here they were shooting towards the guys who were on the other end. And
Yeah.
that was horrible.
Yeah, that's
So-
insane. So they could view in, and this show would be important to them.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, it's even for hunters.
So, Jamie, so
Yes.
I have a question for you. So,
Yeah.
being married like myself prior, did you guys have guns in your house?
No.
Because I didn't either. And do you think, to me, I think it's education because I'm like, there's going to be no guns in here because you automatically think of an accidental shooting,
Sure.
your kids getting a hold of it.
Sure. So interesting that you say that too, because I now have my CCW. Obviously in this life too, like not only was I taking an interest in my husband's profession by kind of trying to learn about guns, but I also too found it completely relevant, at that point.
Yeah.
Just everything that's
You just
that's
don't think about it,
happening.
though.
Yeah. But I remember in my CCW class that I said out loud to the instructor, I was like, well, why can't I just like shoot somebody in the leg, to like get them to, hobble off or whatever. But no, that's not correct. Like what it says, like, don't, what was it again?
You want me to pull that back up
Well,
for you?
this specifically, but it was, never let the muzzle cover anything that you're not willing to destroy.
So basically, he's telling you got to shoot to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much like if you have your gun drawn, like you're protecting your family or yourself,
Yeah.
and you don't want to just shoot somebody and make them more angry at
But
you.
if you're going to shoot somebody, you better be in fear of your life and be able to
Well,
prove
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
course,
And
of
that was
course.
the point too. Like that's just not something that you think about if you don't have any
Sure.
education about what guns are or how to carry them or
Yeah.
Right.
anything in
I
between.
mean, I have my CCW too. I don't remember that, but I'm thinking if you are going to shoot, go by shoot to kill.
Yeah.
Right. Don't let them. And a dead person can't talk, so they won't know. I'm just kidding.
Just make sure you can prove that
but
your
it
life was in
was-
danger.
So the point was like, don't carry if you're not willing to
Destroy.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, with any type of licensing or weaponry, there's a great deal of responsibility that comes with
Yeah.
that. And if you're not mature enough to handle that responsibility, you shouldn't even be thinking about it.
Exactly.
Or being with somebody who it does.
Yeah. So before it was always like, I mean, in my prior life, it was always like, well, I would never do that. So I would die first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
but you
I
don't.
think, too,
but
it's
I didn't have
education.
kids at the
Yeah.
time either. So it's a
Something
whole lot
I
different.
did, and I just was like, I was against it. Like, no guns in the house.
really?
Like, I didn't want any guns. But then being married, my second marriage into law enforcement, to me, I truly do think it's about safety because I really do think that you have to sit your kids down at a very young age
Yep.
and kill that curiosity.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and let them know, like, was one of the tips that's always think that a gun is always loaded.
Yeah, just always assume that it's
Yeah.
loaded if
Yeah,
it's
for
even
sure.
around. But you know, the one thing we do in our house is we just talk to our kids. We just tell them, look, this is it. It's always going to be loaded.
Yeah.
You don't know that. Don't touch it. Come get
Yeah.
somebody. I
Yeah.
mean, we were just very open and honest
Sure.
with that. But my husband was an officer for many, many years before our kids even came around. So it's just something that we had a rule
Sure.
in our house that we always treated as loaded, and if go get an adult, don't touch it.
Yeah.
So does any of your spouses lock their gun up? Because mine doesn't
We
either.
do have a safe,
Sure.
but
We have many safes.
you
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
if I think it's common that with a lot of people, maybe they're working a double shift or they have time in between and they're only coming home maybe for an hour or two. They're probably not going to unload it and go put it in their safe and lock it up. They're just going to put it up really
Yeah,
high
sure.
somewhere. And if they have a safety, they're going to put their safety on.
Sure.
But
Well,
we're hoping that they have taken, if they take it off of their.
Jim, I'm in the same boat. Like, no, mine's on the counter.
Well,
no,
then
no, no.
that's-
I'm not.
That's where the conversation comes in.
Your
where
kids
you
are
have
older.
to-
They're
Yeah.
out of the house.
But they were younger, though. It was
Yeah.
like that. I mean, seriously.
Well, and not to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was just.
Well, I was
Making
going
a
to
point.
say,
Go ahead.
you know, the point is, yes, they're up high or whatever right now. But the point is, like, we don't want to unload them in case we need them, you know?
Right.
I mean, so we talk about, a lot of times, we talk about had to have a plan. You have to have a plan.
Yes.
You have to have a plan. And
But are
so-
you going to follow through with that plan?
well, and that's the thing. It's like you have to practice the plan.
Yeah.
Because you just, when you're in that situation, like you don't know what you're going to do. So you need to have like training, right? So like so my husband's has from the beginning has always said, if I ever tell you, get the kids and get out, don't ask me any questions. Just get the kids and get out. Don't ask me why.
Yeah, don't even hesitate.
What's going on? You know, get the kids, get out, get under the table. What's your plan? You know, and now every time I go somewhere, I'm constantly eyeballing exits or bathrooms or, you know, people. I pay attention to people a lot too.
Because you're just more aware of it. Because before you were never
because
aware.
You just don't think, because before you're never like, well, I'll just, you know, I'll do nothing.
Yeah. Well, before you're just, it's true. We were just oblivious
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
what.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But
world
now
really
that I
is,
have
yeah.
my kids, you know, with me, it's a whole new world.
Yes. Yes.
But it goes back to our show that the Quirks. Remember our Quirks
Yes.
show that we did? Always knowing your exits,
Yeah.
sitting facing the exit.
That's
Don't
right.
have your back to people.
Well,
And it's because of that too.
And even yesterday, I got my son and we were going to the car and there was just somebody behind us, like no big deal, like somebody behind us, but you know, you look to see, you know, who it is, right? And you
Yeah.
size them up, like what are they wearing, what do they have on, and then I grab my son's arm and I'm like, come on, let's go. And he's like, the first thing he says is like, okay, why? Where are we going? You know, something to that effect. So I get him in the car. I mean, there's no threat there, but it's just part of my personality, you know.
You have an uneasy feeling and you know
So
that.
yeah, so you get in the car, or you know, when somebody's just too close for your comfort.
Yep.
I get him in the car, and I get them locked in and everything. And I said, if I ever tell you to get in the car, don't ask me any questions. Just get in the car. Do you understand? I'm constantly saying to him, do you understand? He's like, yes.
I feel like we
and then
said
I had
it
to
to
explain, like, because mommy doesn't feel comfortable
Yeah.
with something, and I'm trying to get you out of that particular
Situation.
situation.
without worrying him
Yeah.
and
Right.
causing panic with him.
Exactly.
But it brings up a good point. What about having like a word?
That's a great idea, because that actually does work. That's a great idea.
Like maybe have like a certain word
Yeah,
if I
because
say that.
we
a
have the
safe
word.
word?
My son's always touching his face.
Because every time you tell him to get in the car, even if like you're inside, he's gonna be like, "What's going on?"
I know. Because he's always touching his face. So I always go Venom, so he knows to take his hands away from his face. So that's a great
Yes.
pointer. We're doing that when we get home.
Yeah, seriously. So back to the guns. So our husbands don't put the guns up. So how did you guys talk to your kids about gun safety? I mean, like, did you?
Well, yeah, going back to assume it's all loaded.
No, did you take it apart? Did you let Nixon fill the gun?
So we don't make it a secret that we have guns in the house, but we say if you ever find one, don't touch it. Come and get us if you want to. If you want to see it, or if you want to show it off or whatever, just come get us and we'll help you with that. Just don't touch it, because you can kill somebody or be killed by a gun. So it's very serious, because my son set fire to our house once. And it's a whole nother story. But he learned from that experience that how quickly things can escalate. So I was trying to put the fear of God in him about, how serious this particular situation is and how quickly it can escalate. So we just try to kill the curiosity,
Absolutely.
if you will.
And there's great YouTube videos too.
Oh, are there?
Mhm.
We just got to keep reiterating that too, because you can tell a 6 or 7-year-old, don't do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like
if you're interested in it, let me know, because I can help you with it.
don't
But
press the red button.
still,
When you
right.
say don't press the red button, everybody wants to go right to the button.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah. It's
So-
like telling a kid not to eat candy in a candy store.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So I mean, if you give them the opportunity to touch it or
Yes.
to be proactive
Yep.
about it, or so it kind of takes that element
Curiosity
away.
out. Yep, for sure. Yeah, because
And you don't want to like idolize the weapon.
Right.
You don't want it to be fantasized.
Right.
You want to be very careful with how you do that.
Yeah.
So I think taking the exoticness, I guess, out of it, getting the curiosity out of the way, and then you're not going to have those mischievous kids who might be over for a play date and hey, look, my dad has
Yeah.
this. Let's take a look at this. Have you ever
Exactly.
seen one of those? Hey, I know your dad has
And
one of those.
see,
You want to see one?
that brings up a good point though, because just because your child
Yes.
is educated, it's always
Yes.
like the other children that come over.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that goes to a whole nother topic. What do you do with the parents who may not know that this is what is in our life? There's no way around it, and I will make zero apologies that this is in my house, because this is what my husband does for a living. I'm not going to make apologies, and if you don't want to send your kid to my house, that's fine. But how do you handle those parents who maybe won't let their kids come over because they think maybe there's a gun in the house and they don't want their kids to?
Right.
I mean, that's
Get into it.
fine.
But not only that, so Jimmy, all the kids are older, so we do kind of Jim leaves it on the dresser. However, and it's a routine, my niece and nephew come over. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where's your gun? Put your gun up. Like, make sure you put it up high. Because we're used to a routine where we know the kids are educated. But
and somebody else's kids are
I'm
coming in your house, and you
they're
don't know what they're
young,
going to
and
do.
I'm like, oh my gosh, did you put your gun up? Did you put your gun up? Yeah. I mean, it gets scary. I mean, I can see how accidents definitely could happen.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
I mean, but I was going to say too, like when you do have guests over, do you guys put them in the safes?
Oh yes, it's ours in our house. It is never in plain sight. I mean, our kids are a little bit older, but even when they were younger, I will tell you honestly, I never had them want to try and get into it. If they ask questions, we answered them honestly, and we didn't shy away from it. I never had a parent say no, they can't have a play date, because I think honestly, I kind of feel like maybe those other parents felt like their children were safe in our house. I know that sounds kind of, maybe not expected, but I feel like they always, and I never ever let my child go to another person's house, nor let another child come to my house unless I have met their family.
Oh yeah.
And I think that I'm a dying breed, I guess, because I've noticed, especially now that I have one that's a little bit older, I still don't let her go to someone's house unless I actually go up to the door and meet their family, and I kind of walk inside and look around. But again, I don't invite people over to my house unless I've met their family too. And I don't think a lot of people
Yeah.
do that. But
What are you going to do when your kids get to high school?
well, I
because
do have a kid in high school, and I
Oh,
still
so-
do it.
I mean, sometimes they just have friends that, I mean, you're not going to be able to have the opportunity to meet their family when your daughter starts driving. Like, hey, Mom, meet Mary.
Well, I think that's what she was saying. Like, I'm kind of a dying breed because that's
Right.
still a part of our philosophy.
Yeah. Well, so what I have done, actually, there was someone who came over to our house, but I texted the mom. I talked to the mom beforehand.
Can you FaceTime me so I can meet you?
I want to see what you look like. No.
Oh, my gosh.
But I did. I wouldn't let him come over and then, somebody brought her. I wasn't home. My husband was home. But I said, okay, they're going to walk her to the door. Make sure you meet them. And he was like, well, yeah, of course I would do that. But I am still like that because you never know what someone else's house is. And I guess
Yeah.
I'm like that because people don't know what my house is. And I would never expect someone to let their kid come over and not understand what my house is
Yeah,
like.
but you're also a police wife, so that's probably a reason why.
Well,
too.
yeah, the breed. There we go again. I'm a little overprotective.
Can we just say, crazy? No,
Yeah.
I'm just
I
kidding.
mean,
we all
we're
are.
all in that same boat.
I'm kidding. Yeah, we all are.
It's fine with me.
Oh, look, our guest is
Yay!
joining us.
We're having a guest. Woohoo!
Yes, yes.
Very important
Actually,
guest
we're-
today.
Yeah.
We're a
Welcome.
guest in his territory.
Yeah,
We
that's
are.
right. So this is Eric from LEPD Firearm and Range.
So it's been how many weeks, and I finally get invited on?
Oh no, we've always invited
know,
you
right?
on.
You know, the corners of my invitation to you are really wearing out.
Yeah. Well,
All
we can
right.
throw the same
It
thing.
took that long.
We've been waiting our wine for weeks too.
Well, and we want to get up in
Good
the
point.
range too.
That is a good point.
See?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were
See?
talking about gun safety. So we definitely
thing.
wanted you on
Yeah.
to kind of explain to the viewers your take on it.
And he brought us some props today. So
he had some product.
Got some good props here, and that's something we do at the store all the time. I mean, gun safety is at the core of what we do, training, and if you're going to be a safe, responsible firearms owner, you want to make sure that you're safe doing it, obviously. And sometimes, as we talked off air, you almost become complacent if carrying a firearm is second nature to you. So if you're a concealed carry holder or you're a police officer off duty, it's second nature. I grab my wallet, I grab my firearm, and it's not, it's just something you do every day.
yeah, you don't even think about it. Even if you're running to get a gallon of milk, you still pick those up.
Absolutely.
It's a routine,
I do
yeah.
not go. I'm more apt to leave my wallet at home than my firearm.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. It is true.
It is. But what we talk about here is at the home. You know, all of us have had small children at the home at some point, and how do you acclimate them to there's firearms in the house? And you don't, from our perspective, you don't want to make it a forbidden fruit because, even if we do a lot of classes where people never want to own a firearm, but they want to know how to safely handle them. And we tell people that even if you choose not to have one in your house, you are at some point your child is going to run across it, and we're a fool to think otherwise. It's just like drugs, and
good point.
they're gonna run across it. So why not educate them on it?
Right.
You don't have to be a firearms owner, but they should know the safety parts of it. If you do have firearms in your home, there's certain things you can do to help with that, and it's not just about the children. It's about teenagers. It's about your spouse. If your spouse isn't a gun person, that's all stuff that you need to think
Or
about.
your kids as friends.
And that's a huge thing too. I mean, I know in my household, I was always the ringleader of the neighborhood. We went over to Mr. Delbert's house
Sure.
to shoot BB guns, but the kids knew that we treated them as if they were a live firearm, and
Right.
the kids knew that if they pointed the gun anywhere but downrange, we were done for the day. And there was many times where we were shooting balloons or shooting light bulbs or having fun. And the child would say, "Oh, Mr. Delbert, look at this," and they would inadvertently turn the gun. I'm like, "Okay, guys, we're done." And
Yeah.
you
But
know,
you
and-
set that precedence from
Yeah.
the very
Exactly.
beginning. And I think that's what parents need to do when they're trying to educate their children on it.
Well, and a big question too, everybody has, at least a lot of the wives do, is like, at what age is it appropriate to start that?
You know what? We started young with the BB gun. I mean, it was 5 or 6 years old because firearms were a part of our life, and the questions started to come at that age, and so we did. We bought the Red Ryder BB gun, all the traditional stuff, and we were at the range with my son, probably 7, 8 years old, on 22s and on some other things. But there's really no definite age limit. It's if you're there and you're teaching them right, I feel that there's no limit on when you want to start educating them
Yeah.
on it, and you want them to respect it.
Right.
I mean, I never felt like it was an issue having firearms out in our house. I mean, my son is now a teenager, and I certainly don't worry now. I trust him more than I trust a lot of adults with them.
Oh, sure.
Because he's been educated.
Yeah.
He has been. He knows. And then, even within that, even if you have a spouse that's not a firearms person, well, I mean, there's some very, very basic things. I mean, at least you need to teach them how to make sure the gun is safe. Unloading it. One of the things we talk about on a semi-auto, which, all the husbands would have as a duty gun, is that, a lot of times where people get in trouble on these is they'll drop the magazine, and if that slide is forward and they're still around in the chamber, they think the gun's safe.
Right.
But if you pull the trigger, the gun's still going to go off with that round in it. And that gets people into trouble. So you need to make sure that not only do you drop that, but you pull the slide back, you visually look, and if there is, if you feel it necessary to have a lock on it, they're inexpensive. Every new gun comes with a lock.
Oh, good.
So it's something, and if you don't have one, if you bought a used gun or if you lost yours, they're very inexpensive.
Good.
So you're saying make sure when you take the magazine out to make sure there's no bullet in the chamber?
Exactly, because if this isn't today, like we do on air, we're dealing with dummy rounds. So they're a dummy round. So where people get in trouble is if that round is in the chamber and that gun's loaded, and somebody inadvertently says, "Oh, hey, we're safe now."
Yeah.
There's still a round
Because
in
that
it.
next one pops up, so they think they have them all in there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's still one in there, so you could still fire that gun. It's not until you
Yeah.
do that out. Here's something else too. We'll see if there's one in the chamber, and they say, "Okay, we're going to make this safe. I'm going to take the one out of the chamber first."
Oh.
And it probably
Okay,
pops
now
back
I'm going
in.
to take this out, and you just loaded a live one.
Yeah. I see that.
so you
I think that would be a very common mistake for someone who's not
Absolutely.
educated.
Absolutely. And it happens to people who even are educated.
Really.
So as the evolution went in the day from the duty gun being a revolver to this, a lot of the officers who weren't gun guys, they struggled with it. This was easy. I mean, you pop it out, you see it there, now you have this going on. And something else, too, we talked about off air is that in the evolution, now all these firearms and most of the duty firearms are what they call striker fired. So when you go to pull this trigger, it takes hardly any pressure to pull it.
Oh.
Whereas in the day,
Those revolvers are something else.
right, you had some pressure. I mean, it took some pressure on it. So, that has lent itself, and it's made it even more apparent that your first line of defense is you keep your finger out of the trigger. And it seems so elementary, but if you ask any of our sales associates how many times we hand a firearm to someone who's in the market for one, and they'll go like this.
Yeah.
And, I say, "Ma'am, sir, you need to have that out of the trigger." It doesn't go in the trigger until you are up on target. Now your finger goes in the trigger. We tell people, watch any of the police shows. Watch Live PD. That's at Friday nights at 9. No.
Yeah, plug it in. Go for it, Eric.
But
and they sell shirts here for it, too.
That's right. I don't have mine today. But you watch Live PD, you watch cops, and all those officers, when they get out of the car, that finger is riding there. And you rarely see them on air have their finger in the trigger unless it's imminent threat. And that's how you should. When you get in the habit of that, it's hard for us, even on air, when we're passing the gun around and we're trying trigger pulls. It really is hard for me to put my finger in the trigger outside of the range.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it feels
so
weird.
you need to get to that point.
So I have my CCW, and I have a 380. But
Right.
I don't have a safety.
Right.
However, we talked about this because I was very concerned. I was thinking about getting a gun that had a safety, but you educated me and said, listen, without a safety, you have to actually pull that trigger even.
So the
with
firearm
more
you
force.
have, which is a very common concealed carry one, it acts closer to a revolver than to these striker fires. Happens to be just the model that you have. A lot of times new shooters will come in and they say, I definitely want a safety. A safety is not a bad thing. But when you think about if you're a concealed carry holder and you're carrying this every day, it's one more thing that you need to make sure is disengaged before you use it. So if you come to the range regularly and you're practicing, okay, as soon as I draw my gun, the safety's off, now I'm ready, and you're getting that muscle memory in, that's okay. But when you look at almost all, probably without exception, the duty firearms, none of them have safeties. And I would say the vast majority of off-duty firearms for law enforcement don't have safeties.
That's true.
If it's to the point where you're drawing that firearm, you want to take everything out of the mix that isn't going to help you. And if the safety is one of those things, the last thing you want is to have it up there and it's life or death, and the
Yeah.
darn safety's on.
But without the safety, you have to the force of your finger.
Right. So that the firearm that you have, and there's quite a few of these for CCW, it still is a traditional double action firearm. So it acts very similar to this. So what it does, it gives you a little bit of peace of mind that it is a distinct trigger pull. You're not going to have it in your purse and it accidentally get pulled. That is a distinct pull of the trigger.
Like you have to make an effort to
You
do
do.
that.
And it's harder if you can feel the two. It's actually, it's a little bit
Yeah.
harder to actually pull the trigger
Right.
on mine that doesn't
And I
have the
guarantee
safety.
you, if you're ever in a shooting scenario, you will not have an issue pulling it, and you will not
Sure.
remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I'm sure.
You
No,
know,
you won't remember that
That
at
is
all.
not
Yeah.
that is not going to prohibit you at the time. So I mean, those are all good things. And if at the home, we talked about the cheap locks.
Yeah.
We've done many stories where if these simply can go through. They're a physical barrier, so they just simply go through
Oh, wow.
and lock.
Okay.
And if you kept your firearm in this fashion and stuff, I mean, it takes nothing to drop that.
Well, I'm just thinking
And
the
get in-
keys. I would probably lose the keys.
It's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, it's a consideration. That's where these come into play. These are enormously popular now with concealed carry holders because they come out in your car as well. And that's one thing we preach a lot. The bad guys are getting their guns. Contrary to what you hear on the news, the vast majority are being stolen. That's how they're getting
Oh,
their
sure.
firearms.
Sure.
Overwhelming. I mean,
Yeah.
any given year, 10,000 guns are stolen from gun stores.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything we can do to prevent that in your car is one thing.
Well, just know if they come here to steal from a gun store, it's going to be all over social media and you're all going to get caught.
Oh, it ain't gonna
Because
be
that's how
pretty.
he
And
rolls.
you've
not
got
gonna be
something. You've got something pretty fierce staring down your face when you come to that door too.
No,
So.
but people, they have came here and they've stole from here. It's
Oh, yeah,
insane.
they did. Yeah, they
Who
stole.
comes-
They tried to steal
does that?
items. It doesn't.
You'll
it-
always get caught.
Yeah.
it's-
Well,
it's
that
like-
ended up on the news, like,
Right.
like
We know a few news people.
Right.
It's like stealing from a casino.
Yeah.
I mean, there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they stole from us.
Right. Yeah.
Get
Exactly.
it?
Yeah.
The casinos, they stole from us.
Yeah. That's right.
I don't get that.
Okay. Anyway.
Because you're wasting your money when you go in there. So the
Yeah.
casinos are stealing from
Yeah.
Oh,
the,
You lose when you go in.
the
Okay.
customers.
I don't
And
gamble
I
at
don't-
all.
Jamie's back, guys. She's back.
I don't even play slots. I'm so bad at
Yeah.
it.
Oh, so it has a light.
Yeah, so a couple of these are the very basic of if you have a pistol at home and you want to keep it secured. All of them are able to be mounted or mounted in your car. 3 different ones are common. One is key, but like Shannon said, then you
Right.
have to make sure you know what a key is.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's very secured in there, and you can keep it loaded, but in here, so the protection is having to unlock it. Probably the more popular ones are the ones that have a punch pad for the key,
Okay.
and you set it yourself. But again, in a high stress level, you have to
Yeah.
have the wherewithal to know that. But it does provide that layer of safety, and you hope that especially in your home, it's not going to be. You're going to start recognizing the threat. It's not going to be. They're right up on you, and I got to get the gun out. I heard a noise downstairs.
Sure.
Okay, I have a second here to collect my thoughts.
And off air, you were telling us that there could be 15 fingerprints for each.
Well, this one's just push button. There's a sister one that is actual fingerprints.
Gotcha.
Any of these can be overridden. So these actually have a little electronic device in there, so it's a
Yeah.
battery, but you can override it with a key. The fingerprint holds 15 fingerprints. So presumably you do, your right hand, your left hand, your spouse's hand, however, whatever combination. We have some guys that even do their thumb 2 and 3 times just to make sure that when they do it, it hits it. So
Yeah, so no matter how stressful your situation is,
Right.
you can still make sure that you're hitting that by
Right.
having more than one option.
And the finger, I mean, that's great then. Then you're really limiting to the.
So do you keep your gun in a safe at night?
No,
Yeah, I know.
We
My
were just
husband
saying
doesn't.
that we don't
Yeah.
either.
no, we don't. We don't.
Well-
I mean, it's.
No, I was gonna say that we actually have a plan.
Yep.
So I have a rifle on a magnet.
Yep.
So I know exactly what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the whole thought process is like, if somebody hears that,
Yeah.
Chuck, you're right.
Figure out they try to
Well,
come in
it-
your house.
it's
you're gonna
intimidation.
Blow them
And,
up.
and you hit the nail on the head. And we were talking about this week on our show. you have to have a plan. I mean, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about a life and death situation. But so many times, and you guys know it from your husbands, in law enforcement, you are trained to run over these scenarios time and time again. I'm stopping a car. What happens if the passenger pulls out with a gun? Okay, I'm going to do this.
Right.
And we run through those scenarios. So, if it did happen, we've been there before in our own mind. And this, one of the things we teach in situational awareness is your body can't go where your mind hasn't been.
Right.
And that's so true. And it plays down to the home. It plays down to the mall.
Yeah.
When something's happening and you don't go crazy. And, in that situational awareness, you talk about the levels of being aware. And if you've never thought about it, you're going to go from a white level, meaning, hey, I got not a care in the world. I'm looking on my phone. I don't know